Hello everyone, I'm Redbeakraven and welcome to a discussion video on the Elder Scrolls 6. More specifically, a video talking about what the next Elder Scrolls game can take from Fallout 4. Now I know that it still may be a bit too early to talk about the next Elder Scrolls, what with Bethesda working on 2 other projects that are supposed to be released before that. However, seeing as though Todd Howard has confirmed that they are going to be working on the next Elder Scrolls, and the fact that he mentioned it again at E3 this year, we may as well start talking about it. Not too much though, because it will still be a while before we see the next one. I'm still surprised so many people watched Bethesda's E3 this year in hopes that they would mention the Elder Scrolls 6, but I think it would be remarkable if they did that. Anyways, I wanted to start making some Elder Scrolls related content, and I thought that seeing as though Fallout 4 is still fresh in our minds, especially since it hasn't even been a year since it was released, I may as well try and include that in an Elder Scrolls 6 discussion. I mean, Fallout 4 is less than a year old and we're already talking about the next Elder Scrolls. So yes, in this video I will explain what things I think Bethesda can learn from Fallout 4 and what I think they can refine and reuse for the Elder Scrolls 6. Now Fallout 4 wasn't exactly a game changer like Skyrim was or even the previous RPGs Bethesda made. Most of them had a big impact on the industry, whether it was its complex AI or its be who you want, do what you want role-playing element, or even the well-written quests and lore-rich worlds. Bethesda's RPGs have had an important role in defining modern-day RPGs. So despite the fact Fallout 4 might not be a game like that, even though it did have an impact on the industry, such as encouraging other companies to take the short time between announcement and release route, I think there are still things that Bethesda can take from it and use in the next Elder Scrolls game. We see plenty of examples when it comes to Bethesda using things designed for completely different franchises. Fallout 3 was in a sense built on the foundations of both Oblivion and previous Fallout games. Fallout 3 was basically Elder Scrolls gameplay with guns and Fallout material combined to make what I think is one of the best RPGs of all time. We then can look at Skyrim and the aspects of Fallout 3 that were used in that game, such as an improved follower system and the change in player dialogue. For example, in Oblivion your options were basically topics to choose from. In Fallout 3 they changed that to actual lines you would say, then they implemented that into Skyrim. So as I said before, Fallout 4 may not be Fallout 3 or New Vegas or Skyrim etc, but Bethesda can still learn a thing or two from it, because there are plenty of things Fallout 4 does better than Skyrim. Now, they are completely different games and should not be compared like they were when Fallout 4 was released, however they are built in a similar way, the gameplay is similar, the engine they are made with is pretty much the same, with the exception that Fallout 4's creation kit is an upgraded version of Skyrim's, so it should be no surprise that Bethesda will use things in the next Elder Scrolls game that they think worked in Fallout 4, and here is what exactly I think they could use. Say what you want about Fallout 4's graphics and all that, but the attention to detail in this game was incredible. From the pipes and valves in Vault 111 to the amusing teddy bears you see scattered around the Commonwealth, Fallout 4's environments were full of clutter and had their own unique story to tell. I rarely found myself in a situation where I was running through a location and felt like I experienced deja vu. Most of the locations in the game felt unique to a degree, with things such as handwritten notes lying around, terminal entries or carefully positioned bodies, skeletons and objects that displayed a particular scenario. One of my favourite locations to highlight this attention to detail is the Speakeasy in Concord, where you see the 3 skeletons sat by the entrance just enjoying a pan and one with a cigar still in its mouth. We could presume from this that they decided to say fuck it and go out smoking cigars and drinking booze. If you can't escape a nuclear blast, then why not sit back and go out in style? Or maybe someone put them like this afterwards. And if you go up to the next floor in one of the bedrooms, there is a skeleton lying next to a mannequin with 2 XL inhalers beside it on the floor. Now I don't want to imagine what he was doing to the mannequin, but it's clear that he wasn't planning on being clear-minded when the bombs dropped. Then in the bathroom of the same room there are 3 mannequins, 2 holding machetes and 1 with a plunger, surrounding a bath that contains a skeleton with no skull. The skull is actually in the toilet next to them, but what the fuck happened here? Was this done before or after the bombs fell? Was there a wastelander that just went insane and created this creepy scenario? Who knows, but the point is, Places such as this and the teddy bears being put in various positions, like locked away in a makeshift jail in the form of a bin, or riding a giddy-up pony with a captain's hat on, show us just how much thought and effort Bethesda put into designing the world. This is exactly what I want to see more of in the next Elder Scrolls. I thought that Skyrim had a really good attention to detail, but Fallout 4 has to take the top score for it. I mean, just look at this. Again, say what you want about Fallout 4's workshop mode, but as a Fallout fan who loves this new mechanic, I would definitely like to see this in the next Elder Scrolls game. However, it will need to be tailored to an Elder Scrolls fashion. It's not like a medieval fantasy adventurer is going to collect every wooden plate and ladle just so he can build a chest for his skooma. I don't think I'd like to see it as freely and as wacky as it is in Fallout 4, but maybe do it on a level that lets you build your own specific buildings rather than an entire settlement. I thought it was a great idea the way they let you customize home plate in Diamond City. I think that's something that would be good for the Elder Scrolls. And what I mean by building your own buildings is, well, rather than letting you build settlements here, there and everywhere, which I imagine wouldn't be entirely lore-friendly nor immersive, unless you became the lord of a region or a governor of a sort, but even then it wouldn't make sense for you to be building settlements, but then again, it doesn't necessarily have to. Anyways, yes, build your own buildings like plantations and skooma dens, and run your own little enterprise, or build new guild halls for factions, and just have it so that you can customize a lot of pre-made interiors. That way the feature can be entirely optional, and despite the fact I really love the workshop mode in Fallout 4, I do feel like it's a main component rather than an optional one, and I don't think that would suit an Elder Scrolls game very well. However, I could be wrong. Maybe they will implement it in the next Elder Scrolls, but address the issues that plague the workshop mode in Fallout 4, and make it so that it does work for the Elder Scrolls and possibly even bigger and better. Who knows what they have in mind for this particular feature in the future, but as I said, I'm happy to just customize my house like you can in home plate. Now, this should be a fairly obvious one, but Fallout 4 had some fantastic and memorable characters, and none more memorable than the companions you could take with you on a scavenging run. I would love to see Fallout 4's companion system in the next Elder Scrolls game, as when you play Skyrim and you're going through all these cool looking Nordic ruins and beautiful groves, your followers would simply say the same thing that they said when they saw a large door a few dungeons back. Imagine experiencing that with companions like those we have in Fallout 4. Preston Garvey aside, companions such as Piper, Paladin Dan's, Deacon and Nick Valentine were great to travel with, and to be honest, I enjoyed travelling with most of the companions in the game, because they made the experience of rummaging through different ruins a lot more entertaining and made long treks across the wastes a lot less boring. The way they would comment on things such as objects in their surroundings and talk about various locations like the vaults, I especially liked how they opened up more dialogue when speaking with a lot of NPCs, and I thought Fallout 4's story was very good, but even better when you've got someone like Nick or Codsworth following you around. I liked how we could easily get to know our characters and how our actions had an impact on the relationship between you and them. It's just when you compare the companion system in Fallout 4 to the one in Fallout 3 or even New Vegas, you can clearly see that Fallout 4's is superior due to how much more in depth it is. In truth, it is sort of on par with New Vegas's companion system, as in that we got to know our followers a little better through the quests we could complete with them and the comments they would make when exploring locations. Although Fallout 4 still has the upper hand, as it did have much better dialogue and the characters responded better to what you wanted them to do. However, I will admit I do miss the companion wheel. I know Skyrim had significantly more followers than you have in Fallout 4, but in my opinion, quality is better than quantity. Most of the time anyways. I would gladly sacrifice the option to have 25 followers for the option to only have a few followers like Jazago. That would be ace. Or a really dark, disturbing but strangely interesting Dark Brotherhood assassin. And please Bethesda, no more Cicero. Let's talk about something I don't think we'll ever stop complaining about, and that is bugs. As games get bigger and more complex, it's expected that bugs will likely appear more and more as time goes on, and games get even bigger and even more complex. However, people will still complain about them, and I suppose you've got the right to complain if it is really affecting your experience with a game in a bad way, but more to the point, Fallout 4 had its share of bugs and still does, and yes, people are still complaining like there's no tomorrow. But let's be honest, if you played any Bethesda game around the time of its release, then you will be well aware of what to expect upon opening this new world to explore. Lots of things to do, NPCs to meet, kill and loot, not necessarily in that order, and of course a fair amount of bugs to deal with. It shouldn't really be news that Bethesda Game Studios games are notorious for how buggy they can be, and this is coming from someone who has experienced it in its worst form. From a constantly crashing Point Lookout DLC to an unplayable Fallout New Vegas after hundreds of hours put into it, and oh, don't forget Skyrim in general. These games on the PlayStation 3 were an absolute bloody nightmare to play most of the time, and it's a wonder I'm still a fan really. Then again, I did convert to PC primarily due to how bad those games are on console. Anyways, yes, I went into Fallout 4 expecting a similar experience, but maybe one with less bugs, as Bethesda had plenty of time to finish the game and test as much as possible, and from my perspective, they did exactly that. Fallout 4 has to be, second to Oblivion, the smoothest experience I've ever had with a Bethesda Game Studios game. It took me hours to find a noticeable bug. Not that I was looking for them, but I am telling you, this game on release ran like a dream. Now I've heard the same can't be said for consoles unfortunately. In fact, I even heard 15 minutes before midnight on release day that there were problems with Fallout 4 on consoles. I don't fully remember what issues Fallout 4 did have on consoles, if any noticeable ones at all, but as far as I can tell, it was in a better state on release than the likes of Skyrim and Fallout 3. That is what I hope Bethesda continue to do with not just the next Elder Scrolls game, but every game they do in the future. To be honest, I hope every developer does, and from what's happened in recent years, I think they too hope to spend more time bug cleaning. Bethesda said they spent months testing and fixing bugs with the game. We know that they essentially finished the game around the time they announced it. As they said, they are basically at that stage where they just play the game all day and every day testing it. I suppose what I want them to do with their future products is not try to release it as soon as possible and rush through the testing stage. I would rather have it delayed and playable than on time and unplayable. As much as we gamers moan about delays, I have to say that they can generally be a good thing most of the time. Alright, so one last point to finish up on this discussion video. The time frame between Fallout 4's announcement and its release was surprisingly and almost ridiculously short, and I'm not complaining. That's something I wish every company would do now that I've experienced it firsthand and what it feels like to hear some things in development and it's coming in less than 6 months. One too many times do companies announce projects years before its release, and that brings on two things: initial hype and then a long dragged out waiting process that causes that hype to die down. And the only things that come out of that successful are games that look really, really good, or franchises that people have been waiting for a long time. Best example is Grand Theft Auto, but what Bethesda did with Fallout 4 was brilliant. I've never seen such hype for a game in my life, and I was glad to be a part of that hype train. It was an exciting time. I almost wish I could go back and experience it, but one of the things that brought it on was the short time frame between announcement and release. This is something that I have no doubt about that Bethesda will continue to do in the future. I just hope that we don't get an announcement more than a year before the next game of theirs is released, because it was a good time living those months up to Fallout 4's release, and I imagine it will be the same if not better when the next Elder Scrolls game comes around, or probably even the next game from Bethesda if not Elder Scrolls. As much as I would like to see a glimpse of the next Elder Scrolls game early, in the long run I'd be annoyed if anything was leaked and I saw it. We know they are going to work on another one, but for some reason there's a difference between knowing that they are working on something and actually being told by them that they have done something. I think all the excitement really kicks off when an announcement trailer is released. That's my opinion anyways, but I don't know if that's because Fallout 4 was widely speculated to be in development rather than actually being known to be in development. So yes, I would like Bethesda to do the same thing with the next Elder Scrolls game. Well, that's what I think the next Elder Scrolls can take from Fallout 4, but more importantly, let me know what you think. Is there anything from Fallout 4 you would like to see in the next Elder Scrolls? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you want to form some theories about the next Elder Scrolls, then let me know those as well. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'll see you soon.